Welcome, my 30 subscribers, everyone on Wrestling Reddit, and everyone who irrationally gets uncomfortable when one of your socks or your shoes is removed. Welcome to my review of King of DDT 2022 Round 1. This is like DDT's knockout tournament. This is gonna be my first DDT show. We're not gonna have a Noah show, like a Noah show of some note for like a week. So why not check out DDT? I mean, if I don't like this, I can go check out like Tokyo Joshi Pro. Wrestle Universe literally has 4 companies under its banner. So it's like one of the most worth it streaming services out there. They don't charge you for like pay-per-views. They don't ask you to pay extra, just like in New Japan World. This is very worth it. You should go check it out. I know I will. Let's begin. So before I talk about the actual matches, this felt like an indie show in Japan. Yeah. This sort of felt more indie than innovation, honestly. It felt like I was watching Progress Wrestling. This is set in like Shinjuku Face. It's just like a small like hall place that like seated 440 people, like 444 people for this show. This felt like one of those indie shows that's not so small, that's like decently sized, they can draw nice numbers, but you can't take the indie out of the show because like the music sounded like they came from boomboxes, and yeah, I mean, like, they didn't sound good. We could also see, like, some of the wrestlers, like, creep out of the curtains and just sit and watch the match, just like for the second one, where the winner of the first match, I'm just gonna spoil it right here, Harashima, like, came out with a mask, like, and then Indian sat on the floor. This felt like so weird and so personal that I would actually want to attend one of these shows. But it's just like packed to the point that it would make me uncomfortable. Like for me, the perfect place where I'll watch a show is like the Radiant Hall where Noah held the third Dream On show and the Innovation. Like that's my perfect stadium, but this one is like okay. So enough rambling about like that side of the show. Let's get to the matches. So the first match is between Hideki Okatani versus Harashima, and I've watched one of these dudes. I've watched Harashima once back in Cyberfight, and he was okay. He was like the smart veteran, and it turns out he was like a 10-time world champion for DDT. He performed well there, and I think he performed well here. Like, for his age, he's 47 years old, and he performs like one of the young dudes. I mean, like, not one of the special young dudes, but like one of like the average ones. He can still work, he can still put some weight on his shots, and he still has the agility to move well around the ring. He doesn't look awkward or anything. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm just like not invested in like any of these people here, but the match like did nothing for me. I felt nothing. I ate it and then it like went through my digestive system. I shot it out, and that's how I felt about this match. I mean, like, it was paced to be an epic, but I just didn't care. They didn't try anything like spectacular. They didn't target any specific limbs, but they had this one like nice sell where Harashima did like a knee raise and then they hit both of their knees on each other and then they both sold their legs. That was pretty cool. That's probably my like number 2 spot in the match, but they just didn't capitalize on this. They stopped selling the legs after selling hard that one time. Harashima did some nice kicks. That's probably going to be my number 3 spot of the match. And number 1, I mean, the ending was pretty cool though. This like woke me up and then made me carry on with the whole show because like this was a pretty cool ending. It was when Okatani went for like this like weird roll up, but then Harashima kicks out. He kicks Okatani hard in the head, and then he does a Poison Rana, which directly leads to a Bomaye or the running knee, and then he wins the match. This was like an average TV match for me. Not that special. Ending was pretty cool, but it's supposed to be, so yeah. But the next match was something. It was pretty crazy. It involves Chris Brookes versus Naomi Yoshimura, the two teammates from Cyberfight. And holy shit, this is the sort of thing that I expected from DDT. They tried some out of the box stuff and it worked, and it didn't get too dumb. Because it feels like you can conceivably believe that someone would actually try these tactics here, that mostly Chris Brookes does. So after these guys make their entrances, like we start off the match with like a blind side dropkick that Chris Brookes misses. These guys start out swinging and then they end up outside. There are a couple of bumps in the bleachers, but like nothing too hard or too extreme. And then we get number 2 spot of the match where Chris Brookes ties up the boots of Naomi to like the railings, and then he tries to get a count out of this, but somebody brings out scissors and then cuts off the boots, so Naomi has to wrestle with like one less boot. And this is the part that I was talking about earlier. We see Harashima come out of the curtain with the mask on and then just sit and watch the match. This looked kind of casual and kind of unprofessional, but it's alright. It's like the Japanese indie promotion. And then when they get back in the ring, Chris removes one of Naomi's socks, and then he starts working on this foot, but they don't really like take advantage of this all throughout the match. The less padded foot should have been like a clear target for someone, but yeah, we don't get some like limb manipulation shit right here. We don't get some of the technical wrestling that I wanted from Chris, but we do get like a very, very funny, I'll name this the top spot of the match. This is like a strike battle that culminates in a chop to the thigh and then a hard chop by Naomi to Chris Brookes. And then from this point on, they do like the big moves, like the hard-hitting moves. We get an octopus stretch, but this doesn't like last long. Like we get the number 3 spot of the match, which was like a lariat by Naomi on a jumping Chris Brookes. And then the ending was kind of messy. It kind of took away from the whole match. I was like starting to love it now, but the ending is a bit bad because Chris's tag team partner was clearly outside and then he hit Naomi with a title. The ref saw this and then confronted him, but didn't disqualify Chris. Instead, he was distracted, which, if everything went right for Chris, he would have hit Naomi with a title belt to win the match, but instead he's caught in like a judo hip throw and then pinned 1, 2, 3. So I've never seen this move finish anyone before, but it's kind of refreshing, but also it's not impactful enough to be a finisher. And then after this, the two wrestlers like shake hands, they show respect, even if one tried to cheat. So that's kind of weird, but okay. So this was better than the first match, but it belongs right where it is because it's just like a minor show TV match. And it's entertaining enough, it does its job. And special mention to Naomi's music. It's fucking terrible. Change it, because it sounds like trash. So next match. So the next match, number 3, it's between two people who look like if they do the fusion dance, they would form Kota Ibushi. Because I've already mentioned Yuki Ueno's similarities to Kota Ibushi, like his body and his movements. He's basically Kota Ibushi's like clone or like long lost brother or something, but like looks more attractive. And then who we have here, his opponent, KANON, his face kind of looks like Kota Ibushi. So this being a match of basically halves of Kota Ibushi, I expected like a show stealer, I expected more athleticism, but we sort of got like an ordinary Japanese wrestling match, complete with like the fighting spirit strikes, as well as the slow build to like a fast end that didn't look as hard hitting as I wanted. But yeah, this ended up being like just a TV undercard match as it's placed. And about those fighting spirit strike battles, they sort of lose their effect if the strikes don't sound hard enough. Because in the last match, we had some loud fucking strikes. And the first match, we also had some of that, but like less loud. And for this one, it's like they were holding back everything. Their forearms didn't sound like anything. The only thing that made sounds was like a slap that Yuki Ueno did. So yeah, so that kind of took away from the match for me. And then they do these like fighting spirit strike battles abruptly, like just suddenly out of nowhere. And yeah, they kept going back to this well, even though striking is not their forte. They should have just done like grapple moves or something, some chain wrestling and stuff. This match wasn't that like spectacular. But I did have some top spots of this match. Number 3 is like this innovative looking abdominal stretch on the floor by KANON on Yuki Ueno. Number 2 spot is like a picture perfect Shining Wizard on a standing dude. Yeah. Yuki Ueno, Shining Wizards, KANON, and it looks awesome. And for the number 1 spot in the match, it has to be the slap that KANON does on Ueno and then it knocks him off like the top turnbuckle. As for the finish, it's just like the Shining Wizard by Yuki Ueno and then he turns this into like a best moonsault ever. Same one that Christopher Daniels does. He does this and he wins the match. This match was properly placed in a small show like the rest of the matches in this card so far. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in our future Kota Ibushis, but I'm still looking forward in what Yuki Ueno can do like further on in the tournament. So for the next match, it's Yuji Hino versus Daisuke Sasaki. And for me, this is the first match on the card that's a storyteller. And the story of this match is Yuji Hino's dominance over Daisuke Sasaki, how he's the superior wrestler, and that Sasaki has to work double time. He has to do twice as much damage to damage Yuji Hino. And not only this, he also has to cheat. He has to like take every advantage he can because on the wrestling department, like in kayfabe, he isn't the best. He's more of a hardcore type wrestler, a garbage match wrestler. So he can't out wrestle this guy. He can't overpower him. He can do high flying shit, but Sasaki isn't really like a high flying dude. So what he does is he cheats and he takes every advantage he can. Because at the start of the match, like Hino basically just like plays with him. Like this dude toys with this guy and his like faction member on like the outside. Like he even spanks both of them at one point. I mean, it's not a spank on the ass, but it's more like a spank to wherever it is Hino can spank you. It's like a misbehaving child. So yeah, Hino basically controls most of the match. Every strike he does hurts more. Like everything he does is more impactful. And Sasaki can barely like do any damage. And when Sasaki does some damage, the selling by Hino isn't the best. Daisuke does like a dragon screw once and then it doesn't look the best. It sort of stumbles. Hino stumbles. We almost have like an underdog bad guy here. And so before I move on to the ending, because it like gets a bit crazy. So before I talk about the ending, I'm gonna talk about the spots of the match. So number 3 is this like sort of simple kick out by Hino, but then Sasaki turns it into a crossface. And I think more people should do it this way. It makes a lot of sense and it looks very good because it's like in one fluid motion, shoulder up and then crossface. I think like people who do crossfaces like Bryan Danielson or Yuya Susumu should do this. And so number 2 spot of the match is like a T-bone suplex by Hino on the fat clown masked faction member of Daisuke Sasaki. I think his name is MJ Paul. Yeah, that's a weird name, but he does this on him, and then this gets like the loudest reaction of the entire match. And for the best spot of this entire match is like a frog splash by Hino on Sasaki, and I thought Sasaki was done. Like, he didn't even kick out when MJ Paul pulled out the ref. And this was, by all rights, supposed to be the finish if it wasn't for that dastardly MJ Paul outside. So after all of this, like, cannon foddering, this, like, wearing down of Hino, Daisuke Sasaki manages to win the match by playing possum. He manages to get a pin, but then Hino kicks out and then counters it into, like, a German suplex. And then, like, in this position, Sasaki goes to the ref, like, sort of like blinds him, then throws him to the side, and then low blows the shit out of Hino. And, like, I think this ending was kind of dumb, because the amount of referee incompetence in this match is just, like, next level. Like, at some point, as a Japanese referee, you gotta DQ someone, man, because there were, like, so many DQable moments in this match that it's like ridiculous. Like, at some point as a ref, you have to throw people out, you have to DQ or, like, at least give warnings. But this guy, this pencil neck geek referee, he gets taken advantage of, and Sasaki manages to squeeze his way to a win with, like, 2 low blows and then, like, a roll up. For me, like, to protect Hino, I would have had Sasaki, like, use the ropes as leverage after doing his finisher, but yeah. That's the end of the match. The heel wins, and you know what? So far, I still like the second match better than this one. Despite the story, there was just too much shenanigans or outside interferences that it kind of felt like a WWE match, honestly. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next match, which is, let me read this, Yuki Sexy Iino against Mao. Okay, shit. So we're gonna get one of these types of matches next, in a tournament. And right when Mao enters, I knew what this match was gonna be, because, like, Mao was fully geared up in, like, PPE and a mask. He's, like, investigating a crime scene or, like, in a radioactive facility or something. And then Yuki does his entrance with, like, the voiceover that I don't understand. But yeah, he throws in some English here and there. He enters accompanied by his fellow pheromones. Danshoku Daino does, like, the taunt enthusiastically. Him and the other guy that I forgot the name, like the single name dude, Akito. And so this match is the second one in the show with a story. And the story here is Iino, Yuki Sexy Iino, trying to penetrate the PPE, the ski mask, like basically all of Mao's armor, with his usual antics of, like, the dry hump variety or, like, the asses. And initially, this looks like it's working. Like, Mao is no selling, or, like, at least his armor is protecting him from Iino. And, like, after this, like, Iino loses his power source is gone, he's not able to affect Mao at all, and so he, like, sells it. He falls down, and then the rest of Pheromones have to, like, cheer him on. And then Mao, Mao, all proud of himself, like, takes off the mask, he fucking taunts Iino, he basically, like, plays mind games or, like, kills him with psychology. And this works. He manages to get a pin, like snapmare, and then pin Iino. But Iino kicks out, and then Mao continues his, like, quote-unquote onslaught. And this onslaught is basically just, like, fist drops, elbow drops, and a camel clutch This is the fewest moves done by anyone in the show, and then it's getting a reaction, and it's sort of telling a better story than most of like the matches in the card. It's crazy. And after a strike battle that results in Iino hulking up, he even does the pointing thing. It kind of gets like a lot stupider. The story like falls apart, and it just becomes like a softcore porno. So Iino gets the better of Mao. He manages to get him on the corner, but his like antics still don't work. So Mao gets up from like the bottom turnbuckle, and then he gets his like syringe that has like some red fluid, and then he like sort of douches he douches Ino's ass with liquid. This like makes him uncomfortable. Iino sells this, and so Mao has the upper hand. He tries to like do a top rope move, but then Iino sweeps his legs while Mao is on the top turnbuckle, and now Mao is stuck in the mercy of Iino. And so from this position, we get the spot of the match. This like reminds me of like exactly from Attack on Titan. That dude who has that like special chair that he uses to like butt chug people. And that's what they do here. Like Iino gets past a tube, and then he like attaches one side to Mao's mouth, the other side to his ass, and then like he butt chugs from this position, and it's like so stupid, but it reminds me of like better media. So this basically takes Mao out, and then Iino has his way with him. And then it gets stupider and stupider from here. We get like a spot. I'm probably gonna name this number 2 spot in the match, but it's like so funny because every time Iino does his like sexy pose, Mao's like punch gets stopped in the air. And so like every time Mao does a punch, Iino does the pose, and then it looks like he does jumping jacks with how Mao is like rapidly doing this. And then Iino ends up doing actual jumping jacks with Mao cheering him on. But then this turns out to be a diversion, and then Mao manages to punch him in the face. And then it kind of gets repetitive. But then we get number 3 spot of the match, which was when Mao finally emptied the syringe of red liquid in Ino's ass, and then like he fucking like seizured on the floor. I thought this was gonna be it. This should have been it. But the match goes on for like a couple of minutes more. It kind of gets repetitive with the tube, but thankfully Iino ends it by doing like a figure 4 leg lock and then utilizing the tube to make Mao tap out. So this match should have been earlier in the card. This should have been like on the lower half given its content. It also like ran a little bit long. Like for a comedy match, it sort of gets old after like a couple of minutes. 10 to be exact, like from the game. And I completely felt the comedy wearing out after like the 10-minute mark. So this match is positioned right where it should be, like the others, undercard of a minor show. But if I would like place it among the other matches, this is like number 3. So first is the Chris Brookes versus the Naomi match. Second is the one before this with Sasaki and Hino. And this has to be number 3. It was funny enough in the first half, and then it managed to like innovate a couple of things, but overall this isn't like a serious match. I even think Mao should have won after all the effort he went through. So yeah. So next is the penultimate match. It's Jun Akiyama versus Yukio Sakaguchi. And for a match having a 52-year-old in Akiyama and a 48-year-old in Sakaguchi, my expectations were like lowered a bit. But you know what? These two tore it up. Jun Akiyama can still go, and Yukio Sakaguchi, holy shit, This guy is actually pretty good. This guy can deliver kicks and knees like it's nothing. He's like an older Shibata who focuses more on the striking rather than the wrestling. So this match basically starts with like a shoot style grappling wrestling match. And then after they come back from like fighting outside, we get the strikes, we get the knees, and we get a lot of knees from both of these guys. Especially Akiyama. This guy spams the knee so much. But the difference here is that Akiyama does the striking to set up bigger grapple moves. Like, it's his means to an end, while Sakaguchi strikes as an end. And special mention to Sakaguchi's choice of fashion here. He's just wearing kick pads without shoes. That looks so badass. So let's move on to the spots of the match. Number 2 are the knees that Akiyama does on Sakaguchi. He like spams the knees, and then he uses this to set up like a T-bone suplex, and then another T-bone suplex to finish the match. 1, 2, 3. And then the number 1 spot of the match, it's like a combo. These 4 knees that Sakaguchi does. So first is while Akiyama is grappled, second is a running one, third is one on the corner, and this looks awesome, and the fourth is a running knee to like a kneeling Akiyama after Sakaguchi no-sells a knee by Akiyama. So yeah, basically this match is just like a lot of striking and like minimal grapple moves. And like, I know like Americans will hate this because it's not wrestling, it's just kicking. Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura got this criticism a lot in the WWE when they first started. But I think that's a load of bullshit. This match was really entertaining. This might be like match of the night so far, moving everything down. But to me, even if it's like the best match of the night so far, I'll still like rank it as like a minor show, undercard match, penultimate match. Could be the main event of a TV show, but yeah, it's still in that level. And for the main event, talking about going up a level, we have Yukio Naya versus Kazusada Higuchi. And like to describe this match, this was basically a brawl between two big dudes. One being bigger than the other. Yukio Naya being the bigger man. He has this sort of like Igor, sort of like abomination monster look. While Kazusada Higuchi looks like he could be the face of a company. He even looks like Kensuke Sasaki to me. And he's like decently sized so he can beat anyone, basically. So I don't like repetition in my wrestling matches, but these guys in this show just managed to do it well. So like just like the match before, there's a lot of repetition here. So we get a lot of tests of strength. We get an exchange of shoulder blocks. After that, we get an exchange of strikes that goes on for a long time. I like how Higuchi just targets one spot. He just chops Naya in the chest until he finally sells it. Because Naya does a lot of no-selling. But after focusing on locking on Naya's chest, it like turns fucking red. And then this is like the breaking of his armor and everything starts to hurt. So this strike battle here is like next level because they do it so well. They make the drama so big. Naya does a lot of no-selling that eventually breaks down, that the grapple moves that come after mean a lot more. So as for the grapple moves, I'm going to go to the top 3 spots of the match. Number 3 is this Scrap Buster pin that Naya does on Higuchi after Higuchi tries to lariat him twice. And these 2 lariats here are hard. Higuchi just staggers Naya and then Naya catches him in a Scrap Buster pin, which is one of my favorite moves. Number 2 spot in the match is when Higuchi finally hits the lariat after trying twice. He hits it on a running Naya and then he takes him out. He goes for the pin, but Naya kicks out. And as for the top spot of the match, you know what? All of these spots of the match happen like right after each other, so it's kind of cheating, but this is like nearing the end of the match, so we'll get to see more of the cool shit here. So that's why most of the spots of the match are here. And then the spot of the match is this whole thing here where Higuchi does like a pounce. It's like a pounce or a shoulder block that knocks the shit out of Naya, followed by a gut wrench powerbomb, which gets him a near fall. And then for the end of the match, Higuchi does like a claw on Naya's face, and then he lifts him up and delivers like a choke slam from this position, which gets him the win. I kind of don't like that finisher. I don't like claws, but this guy seems to make it work. He's a big dude. He can do a proper slam, and it's alright. It's like an alright finisher. I would have rather had the gut wrench suplex be the finish. It was more devastating, and yeah, that's my nitpick of the finish. So, no question about it, this is the match of the night. This managed to get great reactions from the crowd. It kept me on the edge of my seat despite the repetitive moves. And I just love like the hard-hitting nature of their strikes, of all their moves. They looked and sounded like they all hurt. If you're a fan of like the more realistic style of match, this is kind of realistic because in real life, when you're hurt like Naya was, I don't think that was a smart move to let Higuchi keep hitting you. Like in real life, you would like defend yourself, like block or something. But it was like realistic enough, hard hitting enough to not look choreographed and such. So if you're a fan of that style of match, you will enjoy this one. And I enjoyed this one very much. And this is coming from a dude who enjoys like really fast matches, the American indie style, and if the match is slow, I expect like a lot of technical stuff or maybe like working on a limb, selling on offense. That's a big like part of my enjoyment. But this match is like a good change of pace. It's like a kaiju versus kaiju sort of like power versus power match that I don't usually get in most of the wrestling I watch. So this is a nice change of pace. So here are my match rankings for the whole show. And to sum up my thoughts on this has a very strong second half. And the first half was a bit meh, except the Chris Brookes versus Naomi Yoshimura. So that could have been higher on the card. So yeah, overall, I enjoyed this pay-per-view, and this makes me excited to watch the second round because the better performers of this night like move on to that round. And I'm probably gonna upload this like 5 days after the show because like internet problems, a truck hit our internet wires, and I'm using like prepaid data right now. So yeah. So that's the review. So like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you don't know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos, and please watch my shit. Bye-bye.